Gospel Pass at Hay Bluff. Welcome to the GCN Show.
Welcome to the GCN Show, brought to you by Wiggle.
This week we have 6 telltale signs that you're taking cycling that little bit too seriously.
We're also going to let you know about an event we're doing at the World Championships with Zwift, which we would love for you to attend. And we've also got an extreme corner featuring Cy and J-Pow. This week in the world of cycling, we learned that if you're growing marijuana on your rooftop, it's probably best to hide it before a big bike race comes to town.
That's right, here is the footage of the Vuelta that led the Spanish police to moving in on the mini farm, although the suspects had already fled. We also learned this week that riders are now self-policing the whole riding on a bike path issue.
They are. Good job you had a helmet on at that point, wasn't it? That was Annemiek van Vleuten taking a bead onto the noggin at the Bulls Ladies Tour just last week. Finally this week, we learned that some people take their cycling far too seriously. This morning, when we came into the office, Ollie admitted to us all that in his ride this weekend, he got back to his front door with 99 miles on his Wahoo Element. But rather than go in through his front door, he decided to then do half a mile in one direction, turn round, do half a mile back, so that he had around 100 on the clock.
Absolute madness. Now, to many of you, this may seem like a normal thing to do, but to me, it just sounds like Ollie's taking cycling far too seriously.
It does, yes, and it got us thinking, what are the telltale signs that you are taking your cycling too seriously? And we think we've come up with 6 good ones here. Going to start with my own example. Chris, I used to quite regularly go out training and ride with my brakes on down hills and going into corners in order to hit the required power numbers for a certain interval.
Completely normal thing to do, Dan. Something that I used to, and sometimes to this day, do still do myself. But seriously, Dan, what is that all about? I mean, freewheeling back down the hill is the sweet reward for having climbed the thing in the first place.
Well, I know that now.
Here's an example of mine. Many a time when I was a pro, I would go training only to find that my head unit battery was flat.
Right, I think I can guess what's coming next on this one.
Yeah, you probably can. I would charge it to a point that I knew it would see me through the entire duration of the ride, and only then would I head out on the bike.
Basically, you were taking cycling so seriously, you couldn't envisage going out for a bike ride without the ability to record all of the data from that bike ride.
Just love numbers.
Yeah, I've been there and I've done that as well. Have you done this though, Chris? At one point, I was taking my training so seriously that if I was out with another rider or group of riders and one of them had a puncture or a mechanical problem, rather than stop with them to help them repair it, I would continue riding up and down the road until they'd repaired it, so I didn't have to stop my own training.
Oh, damn.
I know, it's pretty sad, isn't it? In fact, at one point, I was out with a rider equally as sad and serious about their cycling, and as we got to the end of our ride, rather than stop with me, he carried on and did the extra 3 kilometres that I'd done whilst he had his puncture, so that he'd done the same distance as me.
You guys sound like the life and soul of the bike.
Well, we probably weren't at the time, although I am, as you know, trying to make up for that now.
Yeah, I can confirm that is true. Right, next up then, how about sunbathing in your cycling kit to get that immaculate, perfect, crisp tan line? I know you're guilty of this because you tweeted it the other day.
I am, indeed.
And I'm going to admit now that I did it when I was younger as well.
Yeah, and today for the thumbnail.
Ah, yes.
Firstly, I can't believe I admitted to that publicly. Secondly, I have no idea really what I was thinking. Well, actually, I do know what I was thinking at the time. I wanted to look like the pros from the Tour de France at their pre-race medical check, where you'd see them with their pearly white, unhealthily lean bodies, contrasting their incredibly brown arms.
I was shaking my head, but to be honest, when I was younger, I thought that was cool too.
I know. Anyway, moving on to yet another example. You know you're taking your cycling too seriously when you get completely obsessed with one particular Strava segment.
Yep.
I'm sure this must have happened to you as well.
Definitely.
But I'm going to give you my example of this. And again, thinking about it, it's just so sad. But about 2 years after I retired from professional cycling, we moved house. And near where I live now, there is a man-made 7-kilometre single track trail, predominantly for use by families, I will remark. But anyway, not long after I got there and started riding around it, I decided to look at who was the fastest around those 7 kilometres. And his name is Paul Hopkins, a guy I used to race with when I was a mountain biker and much younger than I am now. So I set about trying to take this Strava segment, and I really took it quite seriously. And not only did I start training probably 4, maybe 5 hours per week, I bought a mountain bike.
You bought a bike to get a Strava segment?
Yes, I bought a mountain bike for the specific purpose of going faster around this particular segment. And then when I was doing my attempts, I'd do quite a scientific warm-up at the start. And before the start, I would hide any excess baggage in the woods. So things like my rain cape, spare inner tube, pump, multi-tool, bottle, anything that I wouldn't need for this 17-minute effort before I started it.
Wow.
How sad is that?
That's an extra level there, Dan.
But I did eventually get it.
Did you?
Yeah, I took it off Paul. He then came down 2 days later and took it off me. I then took it off him. He couldn't beat it. And I basically retired from cycling for a second time and haven't ridden very much since.
So you still got this segment?
No, unfortunately not. Somebody did come along last year and beat it, but the weather was much better for them and they've resurfaced it so it's much faster than it was when I did it.
Right, of course it was, Dan. Right then, the next sign that you're taking cycling a little bit too seriously is when you buy a kitchen stool, such as these, to go and sit on to do the washing at the sink.
All right. I have done this as well, actually, but for ironing, believe it or not. But yeah, never stand when you can sit.
How much ironing could you possibly have had to do?
Never stand when you can sit, never sit when you can lie down.
No, I always take the lift for exactly that reason.
Yeah. Well, some classic examples there, but we're going to run through a few more now because as Chris pointed out earlier, I did put this up on Twitter the other day and I got some absolutely hilarious responses and we're going to read a few of them out right now. We'll start with this one that came in from Tim Hahn. He said, I bought my house because of its proximity to good roads and climbs for cycling. My wife thinks it was for the school district and neighbourhood, but it wasn't.
Sounds sensible to me. Lee Burgess next. If the weather's pants and I'm doing a long Zwift ride, I get the wife to come to the garage and pass me more nutrition and bidons in a musette like it's in a feed zone.
Yes, brilliant. Wow. There was a good reply to that one as well, saying, do you get your wife to run next to you so you can actually take it from her like a proper musette in a race? Your own Van den Boom, or Boom. I started a cycling sunglasses brand so I can make all my cycling investments tax deductible. Oh, and I called it Tan Line Optics.
Wow. Alex Raha up next with wearing lycra undershorts and a heart rate monitor underneath a 2 or 3 piece suit on days I know I'll be using hire bikes to travel between meetings in central London.
Wow, that's going quite far there.
Quite impressed by that one.
Then we had this one, in fact a few along these lines. 2 of them were from Danis Furious and Miss Sarah D. Pointing at potholes for people behind you as you walk down the street.
That's just courteous, I like that. Miss Sarah D, when you point at potholes when you're driving or shouting your left.
Yes, that one along the same lines. And then we had Trevor Hater, when you race any other cyclist on the road. Grannies on their basket bikes, children on balance bikes, literally every other cyclist is there to be beaten. And then we had this from long-time GCN fan Pietro Masdia, who said, when you get a cycling tattoo, and he's got a nice Campagnolo logo there.
Nice. And over on Twitter again, Bob Tobin from cycleparameters.com has been measuring his 8-year-old CDA.
Yeah, and firstly, if you don't know what CDA is, you're probably not taking your cycling too seriously, but it's basically your coefficient of drag, or how aero you are. Jeff Werner wrote in saying, planning vacations with your family that are conveniently the same locations at the same time as a big bike race. And I've come across many a GCN fan at a bike race that has done exactly that.
I've heard about a few GCN presenters doing that, Dan. Nick put, keeping all your GPX files from decades ago, just in case someone creates a platform so you can get some KOMs.
He's referring to me then, guilty as charged. I basically uploaded all my files from many years ago, from before Strava was invented, after it came along. And then finally, I had a couple of responses from some current pros in the peloton. First of all, this one from Alex Dowsett, who said, you know you're taking your cycling too seriously when it becomes your job. I guess we did have an excuse at one point, didn't we? And then finally, Ryan Mullen of Trek Segafredo said, well, he also admitted to going on a sunbed with his kit on during his days at IG Sigma Sports. So we're not alone on that one, Chris.
No, mad. Anyway, we want to hear from you. Cycling is an easy sport to become obsessed and addicted with. Let us know in the comments down below signs that you yourself have started taking cycling too seriously. Quite looking forward to that, because we're going to read the best ones out next week.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to these comments. If my replies on Twitter or anything to go by, they're going to be brilliant. Right, we're actually going to hand over to Chris now, in a different location than the GCN set, as he gives us an update on his efforts to return to the pro ranks using Zwift.
Oh, wow, some of it will be in the set actually, Dan. This week I've been experimenting with a few things, trying to squeeze out a few extra watts, and I broke Zwift. I finally got a comment, uh-oh, you've clearly missed your calling as a pro, and it's the proudest moment of my career, I reckon. I'm not sure if I can include that.
I've also had that, but then I subsequently realised that I hadn't changed the settings back from when my young son Jude had been on it, so I was down to 20 kilograms and 1 metre 20.
See, I was at my current weight, and I did 830 watts in my kitchen. Nothing else in my kitchen can produce that much power. For a minute?
Yeah. Yes, pretty impressive stuff. Ooh, look at me. Anyway, over to Chris.
Right, so my second Zwift session. This is the Zwift Academy number 2, and it's race simulation. Starting off with a few minutes, 205 watts. Just about make it out on the screen in the set there. And, well, I'm only just getting going, so I've got nothing to tell really. I've had a couple of days off because I haven't been that well, if I'm really honest. And I really want to do a good job of this, so I decided it's best to take a few days off, don't ride the trainer, don't do anything basically. I feel a lot better, ready to get back to it and have another little go.
Next up, it's our weekly GCN inspiration segment. You know the drill, but this is where our mates over at Wiggle offer you the chance to win one of 3 Wiggle voucher amounts. If we choose you as the winner, you're going to get yourself £100 of vouchers to do whatever you want with over on their online shop, which I'm continuing to call it, despite being called old for that last week. If we choose you for second place, you'll get £75, and the third place person will get themselves £50.
Right, first up this week is Ian over in Japan, Seigawa, with an early morning ride over to the rice terraces in Toho.
Wow. It's been quite a while since we've had a black and white moody shot like that, but I particularly like that one. £50 on its way to you, Ian. Second place this week goes to Zach, Deer Island overlooking the Boston skyline. He said, I'm a little upset because I left too late for a recovery ride. Probably taking his cycling slightly too seriously there. But I turned a corner and was rewarded with this amazing view of Boston.
So
Not wrong there, is he?
He's not wrong. I don't understand how that's not the winning picture of the year. That's absolutely beautiful. I love a sunrise because I like an early start. And finally, Fabrizio on the Colle di Nivelette in Italy. We do a big loop each week, passing via the Colle di Nivelette. The tarmac road finishes at the top of the climb, so they carry their bikes for a further 5 kilometers, so they get onto the road the other side. In total, 195k, 2,900 meters climbing in 8 hours. That's a big ride, that.
That is a big old ride, but look at the reward you get once you get to the top. What a spectacular view, and look at that sinuous road down at the bottom. That, I think, was the same climb that Hank, Ollie, and Alan Marangoni used for their look into the 3 different bike brands from Italy, wasn't it?
It's cool.
That was snowy back then, looks fantastic there in the sunshine. Have to do that one day. As a reminder of how you enter and submit your photos to be in with a chance of winning each week, there's a link in the description below to our uploader, and there you will find the folder for GCN Inspiration.
It's now time for cycling shorts.
It's time for cycling shorts now, and as you all may well be aware, it's soon to be the World Road Race Championships up in Yorkshire, but we would like to let you know that we're going to be there as well.
We are. Well, you're not actually, are you?
No.
But Si and I are going to be there. So on Sunday the 22nd of September in the evening, we are going to be at the Zwift Draft House, where we'll be recording our preview for the World Championships, which is basically all you need to know about the course and indeed the riders taking part in front of a live audience. And so of course we would love for you to be there with us.
It's going to be happening at 44 Kings Road in Harrogate. Tickets are free, but they are limited. There's a link down in the description below for you to register your interest.
Yes, and if you miss out on that one, don't fear, because the very following evening on the Monday night, I'm going to be hosting at the same venue Lloydie's Pub Quiz, which will have some fantastic questions, but it will also be an opportunity for me to talk about my days in the solo test team and the fact that I once grovelled around the Tour de France. One not to be missed, I think, that.
Oh, Dan, there's a link for that one down in the description as well. Right, moving on, we've got news from Direct Velo, the website. According to the website, it appears that junior gear restrictions may be about to be lifted. If you're not aware, junior riders, all under 18s, have to have a restricted gearing, which is equivalent to a 52-14 maximum gear, or 7.79 meters for one complete revolution of the pedals.
It's a long time been a ritual, hasn't it, before the start of a junior race. I distinctly remember, actually, often having to hand my bike over to the commissars. They would then basically have 2 lines on a road. They'd put your bike into its biggest gear, align the crank upwards or downwards, and then push the bike backwards and make sure that within one complete pedal revolution, it didn't go too far.
Yeah, at the moment, it's unclear as to why the restrictions may be about to be lifted, because the initial reason for them being there was to protect the knees of young riders, some of whom are still growing.
Or maybe it's because some riders just out of the junior ranks are winning the biggest bike races in the world.
That's a very good point. Before you know it, you could have some junior riders winning the world's biggest races at this rate.
Well, perhaps we might do. That would be frightening, wouldn't it?
It would be a bit.
Going to move on to something that I missed actually in last week's show, and that is that Emma Pooley, former GCN presenter, but more importantly former Badass Pro, won the Further bike packing event. She completed the 529 kilometres in a time of 3 days and 7 hours, which is a full 3 hours ahead of second place finisher Angus Young.
I'd normally be surprised, but Emma is absolutely phenomenal, so I'm not.
It's not a surprise at all, is it?
The event looked absolutely fantastic. They straight across the Spanish Pyrenees, the French Pyrenees, and through Andorra as well. And it was all organised by a friend of the channel, Camille McMillan.
It was. And maybe one for us to tackle. Well, no, maybe one for Hank to tackle.
Yeah, he could Bear Grylls it up at night time, couldn't he?
Although he'll probably be a full day behind Emma if she competes again. Moving on, if you've been wondering what Tour de France winner Egan Bernal has been doing since his fantastic win, the answer, at least at the moment, are some pretty blooming hard training rides. This is one that he uploaded to Strava last week. Check out these stats. 236 kilometers, 6.5 hours in the saddle, 230 watts average power, and 6,600 meters of elevation gain.
I couldn't help but notice he didn't get any KOMs though. Not
Did he not?
Impressive. No.
Well, maybe he was riding around with his brakes on so he could hit his power numbers during his intervals.
Probably. No, next up, it's been brought to our attention, this initiative from Skoda, the DSI Academy. Meg Dickerson, who works here in our office, brought this to our attention. She's been riding with them this year. She started racing when she was 20 and has now progressed to the point where she was 16th in the National Time Trial Champs this year.
Great result, that. The Academy is headed up by Sarah Story, who is Britain's most successful ever Paralympian. And the idea behind it is basically to help these athletes develop the skill sets and the knowledge required to help them up to the professional level of the sport, which is brilliant because there are definitely fewer pathways for female cyclists to make it onto the next level than for male.
Yeah, it was meant to run initially until October, but now it looks set to continue and extend into next year with a whole new influx of Academy riders in 2020. So it's good news all round.
Great stuff. Finally, in cycling shorts, you may remember that not so long ago, we did a giveaway, which was your opportunity to win 2 tickets to the Whistler Gran Fondo over in Vancouver. Cy and Jeremy have been over there, so you can look forward to that video dropping very soon indeed. But here is Jeremy talking to the 2 very lucky winners of those tickets.
So I'm here with Laura and Mary Ann, the 2 winners of the package to come out to the Whistler Gran Fondo. So where are you guys from?
Dallas.
Dallas. They're both from Dallas, Texas. And how was your experience?
It was incredible. A lot hillier than even I expected it to be. I know you have the little elevation map beforehand, but our part of Texas is pretty flat.
Yeah.
So this was quite...
If you were doing like a seesaw scale, what would you say? Like, okay, it was really hard climbing, but the views were here, so does it even it out?
And for the first, the last 10 Ks or so, you weren't thinking, look at the views, no. But
Okay.
for the rest of it, yes.
Okay. And Mary Ann?
I thought the whole ride was just absolutely beautiful. That actually did keep my mind off of the work getting up everything because the views were spectacular.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, beauty, seeing mountains with snow on them as you're riding up.
Yeah. It was really pretty. All the lakes with the islands.
Oh
and,
my gosh.
Yeah.
And then everybody, the volunteers were just amazing as well. So,
Sticky lady.
Yeah.
yeah, it was, and the bacon people. So.
That's so great. I love that you guys won the trip. So if you're watching and you get an opportunity, this is...
They're real.
They're real.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, they were lucky indeed, weren't they? That looks like a brilliant event. I'm a little bit jealous myself.
Slight interlude as I read out this comment underneath last week's show from Matt Urin. I think saying / instead of / makes you sound middle-aged. It's time now for hack / bodge of the week, and we're going to start with this one that came in from Norm in the Midi-Pyrenees in France, who discovered this bodge / hack. And it's basically a bike with a shopping trolley at the front. Could be good if you're taking your cycling very seriously and you don't want to be on your feet going around the supermarket, couldn't it?
I think it's awful, Dan. I'm sorry, that scares me. You know how unstable shopping trolleys are?
Yeah, some of them just go sideways, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, that's our first bodge of the week then.
Next up then, we have Anton, who is too cheap to buy a proper toolbox. So he's had to organise his heap of tools collected with foam inserts made from flooring. And this is amazing.
I love that. What a neat looking job that is.
I bet it's so much fun as well, like having a little Dremel tool to kind of cut all those little bits out. I would have enjoyed doing that.
Can you come and do that for me, Anton? Because my tools do not look anywhere neat as yours do. Brilliant stuff. That is definitely a hack from me.
Yeah, hack for me too.
Next up, Steve. His friend Jeff's sole detached from his cycling shoe. We held it securely to his foot with 2 Livestrong rubber bands. This improvised repair got him the 30 miles back to our start. Well, I mean, it's a bodge, but it kind of worked, didn't it? So it's also a roadside hack. I don't know what I'm going to go with that one.
And also those bands now, they're 16 years old on their own.
Yeah, surprised it didn't snap for being so old.
It's definitely a bodge, but it's a good one.
Okay, next up.
Then we have Ian. He's over in New Zealand. His free-up died in the middle of a mountain bike adventure race. Tied the biggest gear to the spokes using the drawstring from a backpack, as you do. Whipped off the derailleur and away we went. Fixed gear all the way home. Then did shorten the chain a little bit to get a faster gear for on the road.
Well, it's another definition of a roadside hack, really, isn't it?
It is.
If it got him home when he had that mechanical problem. One of his mates rode up and down whilst he was doing it, so it didn't affect their training rides. Anyway, that's got to be a hack, I think, from me. Next up, this from Felix over in Turkey. During tea break, his friend spotted a crack in his rim. They couldn't find a workshop to change the rim, so they went around asking for some epoxy glue, managed to get some green resin, put that in and cut a screw bracket for reinforcement on the rim. The wheel held up all the way to Istanbul. Not bad for a heavily loaded travelling bike.
That is insane. I can't believe you dared carry on with that. I'm hoping it's on the back and not on the front. I always kind of prefer the idea of falling on my arse than on my face.
Do you?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think I'm going to say hack for that as well, since it got him over to
Really?
Istanbul. Well, I mean, they're all. I mean, I also don't still remember what the definitions of hacks and bodges are, but we call them roadside hacks, don't we, if they get you home?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it got him to Istanbul.
Good work.
Next up, this from Tim. A customer actually rode this to our bike shop today. Great use of gaffer tape to keep the tyre tread from rolling away. Made us smile and thought you might like it too. That's from Tim in sunny Guernsey.
I wonder how the brakes worked.
Yeah, must have had to use front brake only. My goodness.
That is incredible. That's a bodge. Dan.
That's definitely
Sorry.
a bodge, I would say, yes. Right, next up we've got this one from Ben Brooks, who's a Master Art graduate and track sprint cyclist. He was asked to make 2 trophies for a track cycling race, the Black Line Team Sprint Championships. The trophies are made from actual sections of Manchester Velodrome, which has recently been resurfaced, and the centerpieces are glazed engraved acrylic surrounded by a gold bike chain.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
What a cool trophy that is.
Yeah.
I mean, that is far better than the cheap ones you normally get, isn't it? That would have pride of place on my mantelpiece if I was good enough to win any kind of sprint championships, which I'm not. Maybe you could.
Yeah, maybe I could. I'm not sure if it's a hack or if it's just an absolute piece of art.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a hack, I would say. Don't forget to get involved ready for next week if you spot any hacks or bodges. The usual method, go to the uploader. There's a link to that in the description below.
It's time now to announce last week's Caption Competition winner, GCN Camelback Eddie Water Bottle. Ed Diaz is this week's winner with... Bahrain Merida has announced that Nibali will be taking a break from riding to address his drinking problem.
Very good indeed, Ed.
Genius.
Get in contact on Facebook with a message and your address and we'll get that sent straight to you. This week's photo is this one from the Vuelta a España. This is Jeffrey Bouchard of AG2R. I will get you started. This must be a hard water area.
Oh, damn.
See what I did there? I mean, it looks solid, doesn't it, the water coming out of his mouth?
It does.
Good that, isn't it? Anyway, if you can do any better, please leave your captions in the comment section down below and we'll pick a winner as ever, this time next week. Next up, we're going to answer one of your coaching related questions left under the show last week. All you need to do to be in with a shout of winning 3 months free subscription to Zwift is use the hashtag AskGCNTraining ahead of your training related question. Winner of those 3 months on Zwift this week is Alexander Sharman, who's cycled quite a lot and he's able to sustain just over 30 Ks now for up to 3 hours, but at quite a high average heart rate of over 160. I'm 33 years old and wondering what would be the best way to train to get my average heart rate down during my training sessions. Long and slow, high intensity training intervals, what would be the best thing to focus on during the winter months so I can go longer and faster next year?
Well, Alex, I think first up it's important to recognise that actually having a high heart rate isn't necessarily that bad. It's quite a genetic thing, and it could just be that you naturally have a higher heart rate than others around you. The only way to find your true maximum heart rate is to do a ramp test, but it's again no indicator of your actual performance.
It's not. I think my heart rate is quite high compared to most other people's. In fact, I was often out on training rides or races looking over at other people's head units and seeing that theirs was like 10 or 20 beats below mine, which was all...
Probably because they weren't trying that hard then.
Oh, thanks very much, Chris. Anyway, it is a very individual thing, as Chris has pointed out. But to your actual question, your heart rate will get lower for the same power output as you get fitter, and any decent training program is going to make you fitter on the bike. However, your heart rate for a particular effort is going to stay roughly the same because your heart rate is a good indicator of the effort that you're putting into it. So as you get fitter, you should still be training in the same heart rate zones. You'll basically just be going a lot faster for any given heart rate. And it's not, so you know, there's the old thing of 220 minus your age years ago, isn't it? But it's rubbish because, as Chris said, it's an individual thing.
Well, I imagine yours has gotten substantially lower now that you're a little bit older than you were when you were a junior.
Yeah. It was just gang up and down day.
Well, you wrote it.
I did write it, yeah, thanks for saying it. But it does lead us nicely on, actually, to our favourite comments from the last 7 days of videos. We're going to start with these ones from underneath last week's show. Dashel said, I went to Lloydie's Wikipedia page and it already says he's middle-aged. I can't even win a race to get to Wikipedia first. But in order to give someone else some stick, I particularly like this one as well from JRHist16 Gmail. I can't believe they let Cy do the whole show with that dirt smudge on his upper lip.
I thought it kind of suited him, to be honest, Dan.
Yeah, he hadn't shaved that this morning because he
No.
didn't think he was going to be doing any filming, did he? No. He regretted that afterwards when he was looking through all the comments.
Underneath the best aero tech from Eurobike last week, we had the guy behind John at 8 minutes 51. Completely fell in love with John's behind.
He did. Yeah, James Clark along similar lines. I want someone to look at me the way this guy looks at John.
And then finally, if anyone could look at me as the guy in the Satori booth looked at John's bum, then I'd be happy forever.
It was a very funny moment. Right then, let's tell you what's coming up on GCN over the next 7 days. On Wednesday, we're going to give you the top 10 near misses from the pro cycling season so far. And on Thursday, we're going to look at top 5 boutique cycling brands. Friday, Jeremy is back to pass on more of his wealth of cyclo-cross knowledge and another how-to video.
On Saturday, Cy's over at the Sufferfest Lab for a video, which I think is going to be really interesting, the high performance lab they have over there.
Yeah, it'd be great for any of you that want to take your cycling too seriously, I reckon.
Yeah. And then Sunday, we've got gravel versus retro mountain bike with Jeremy and Cy, which I think will be a really interesting one. And then Monday, Racing News Show is over on GCN Racing.
It is indeed. We'll be back in the set this time next week for the GCN show. But just as a reminder, also on GCN Racing, we've got daily highlights worldwide of the Vuelta a España. We've also got daily highlights to most of the world for the Tour of Britain each and every day. That finishes this coming Saturday. And then this coming Saturday and Sunday, 2 live races to certain territories, the Coppa Agostini and Coppa Bernocchi, which start the autumnal one-day series of races down in Italy. Almost the end of the show now, but first we wanted to give a nod to our online store, shop.globalcyclingnetwork.com, because we've got another update to the popular Fan Stripes jersey collection. In fact, not just the jersey, but the undervest as well, which is now available in these colours, the green and black with the blue stripes. You're a fan of this one, aren't you?
I quite like the orange letters now.
Yes, so if you like the look of them, or indeed want to look at the rest of the fan kit collection, all you've got to do is head over to shop.globalcyclingnetwork.com, and again, there's going to be a link to that on your screen right now. Right, we'll finish as ever with Extreme Corner, which this week features Jeremy and Cy over in Vancouver on their mountain bikes.
Ooh, it's a bit like watching Bambi on ice, that.
Wasn't that extreme, was it?
No.
I mean, they made the terrain look quite extreme with
They
the way
did.
they were tackling it, but I would imagine that if you send any of the dirty mountain bikers over there, like Donny or indeed Blake, they'd probably make that look smooth as silk, wouldn't they?
Yeah, like tarmac.
Right then, that does bring us to the end of this week's GCN show. Don't forget to get involved in the comments with all the things you've done that have made you realise you're taking your cycling too seriously. And if you haven't yet watched the Racing News Show over on GCN Racing from this week, you can find that just down here.